that we do an interview, and I insisted on doing an interview with you because I know that you have answers to all the questions.
I hope so.
You have answers to all the questions, and
I'll make them up.
you are not afraid to say anything, and it's always your answers always come from your heart.
Yes, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I think that the whole movie was made by people who loved Ronnie.
Yes.
And, I'm sure that everyone who will watch. I just received an email that it's going to be shown in 578 venues all over the world. Right
Yes.
now, at the moment we're speaking.
Yes, yes, yes.
It's amazing, and I assume that at the end of the movie there will be tens of thousands of people crying with the ending scenes, because I don't think that anyone who has listened to the voice of Ronnie can stop his tears when he watches the last scenes. I think you must be, totally out of this world not to burst into tears. It's so emotional.
Yes, yes.
It's so emotional. First of all, watching the movie as a spectator, because okay, you were the executive producer, but you hadn't watched the whole movie from beginning to end. As a spectator, then, what was that the thing that struck you most when you saw the movie?
Well, it was very emotional. They bought me a box of tissues, the directors. When I went in, I said, "Oh, I don't need those." They tried to get me a little packet, but they could only find a big box. So I said, "I don't need those. I'm a strong person." And then I watched it, and I used the whole box of tissues. It was very bittersweet. It was. I think they did an excellent job. We went through a lot. We spent like almost 3 years with making this because of the pandemic in the middle too. With all the archival stuff that I gave them, but they went above and beyond what I gave them. They went into Cortland and they dug up doo-wop stuff and everything. And I think that Don and Demian, the two directors, are amazing to work with. And I was so proud of what they did. I'm so happy they put across the message exactly how I wanted it. And I had interviewed a lot of directors before them. None of them were right. But when I met those two, they were Dio fans already, and they knew so much about Ronnie, and they were passionate about what they did. And I think to do a good job with anything, you have to be passionate about it. Not just a job, it has to be passionate. Otherwise, don't do it.
Yeah, I remember we talked about that 4 years ago, and it was in the beginning of its making. It took many years, but it was worth the time. And what was the thing that you wanted? So it was the passion that made it not just another documentary about Ronnie James Dio. It was.
Yeah, I didn't want it to be the usual sex, drugs, and rock and roll, because that wasn't Ronnie. Yeah. I didn't want it to be like, okay, so he did this, and now he did this, and now he did this. Well, everybody knows he was like in Rainbow and Black Sabbath and Dio, but it has to have links. It has to have a story behind it. The story of how he got to the place he got to, and I think that was very important for fans. There's a lot of things that fans didn't know about Ronnie. They didn't know that he was making music in the 50s, before the Beatles even, he was making music. And I don't think they knew about the terrible car crash that Ronnie got, that he almost gave up everything for. There's a lot of things in there, and I wanted it to be the story of Ronnie. And the story of Ronnie is never give up your dreams, never give up. And all the songs that he wrote and everything, it was always about, for kids, don't give up your dreams. Don't tell someone you have to do this when you don't have to do it. Follow your heart.
Yeah, and this car crash, in fact, I didn't know that either. And not only that, I hadn't seen photos of Ronnie after the crash with the stitches on his head. It was, I was watching them. How come I didn't know about this? and how dangerous it was, and what impact it had in his life. I think that there has been a terrific job in some live footage that has never been released before, and especially some photos, especially from the 50s and 60s, which is an era that we don't know Ronnie so much about, about the stuff he did, and it was a very good thing that it was stressed the fact that he sang earlier than the Beatles and the Rolling Stones.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
In the movie, we hear people say there's something about Ronnie James Dio. What, in your opinion, was that something?
I think Ronnie, a very special person. He had the ability of having a connection with a person and making them feel really important. And that was, I think it was just a gift he was given, that, you know, he wasn't the usual person where you always want to talk about themselves. He wanted to ask you, how do you feel? What do you think about this? And I think he had that real gift of charisma with people. He loved people. He loved people. He loved his fans. He truly loved his fans. I mean, to the point where, you know, everything was done for his music was done for his fans. He didn't care about money. He didn't care about clothes. He cared about his fans. You know, they were number one. Animals number two, and I'm number three.
Yeah, and speaking about clothes, it was a great scene that you had the clothes, some of the stage clothes he was wearing. This legendary, I don't know how can I call it, it's shirt. It's these medieval clothes that he was wearing on stage. This is truly legendary. I mean, it's like seeing Ronnie in it. It was something like that. And this documentary hardly makes any reference to albums after Dream Evil. I mean, in the 90s until 2007. Was Ronnie so disappointed by the fact that he had been rejected by major labels and didn't want to have heavy metal bands back then?
Yeah, he was very tough. That was a disappointing age for a lot of people in the metal business. I mean, I remember walking down the halls of Warner Brothers, and when Ronnie got dropped, and them saying, "Oh yeah, let's drop Van Halen. They only do 1 million records. Let's drop them." And you know, all these bands got dropped at the time because grunge came in, and it was just not a time for metal. It was a very hard time for Ronnie, not having a major label. But you know, it was actually a good thing, because I went and found, I actually went all over the place looking for an independent label, and we went to Germany, and I got a German label. And then I found that, you know, they didn't keep you forever. Like the major labels, everything you signed, that was theirs forever and ever and ever. These were licenses. So now we do licenses. Oh, that's good. Okay, so we do a license for 7 years, then it comes back to us. We own the copyright. So, you know, it was a hard time at the time, but actually when I look back on it, it opened up my eyes to a lot of different things where they only license. And now in America, there's a 35-year law came in where you get your copyright back in 35 years. So now all of the albums of Ronnie's, even from Warner Brothers, are now licensed to Warner Brothers, and I retain the copyright. So, you know, it was, as I said, all these things come for a reason. And that was a hard time, because to not have a label, and for Ronnie to have to play clubs again after playing arenas. But you know what? He gave his all. It didn't matter if there was like 100,000 people or 10 people. He would play exactly the same all the time. And he didn't, you know, that was something that he played music for his fans, and that's all he cared about.
Yeah, and that's the reason I think when he was touring for Sacred Heart, for example, this whole dragon thing and the whole paraphernalia on stage was humongous. That's exuberant. It was huge. And I don't think that you made any money out of it.
No.
Everything was spent on the production on the stage
Yes,
production.
exactly. Yes, Ronnie wanted to give back to the fans. He said, I want to make a big, like Disneyland. I want to give back to the fans. And it did. It cost a lot of money. A lot of people grumbled about it. But you know what? It's what Ronnie wanted to do. And he did it. And he did a great job on it.
Yeah, and okay, we knew that, but by watching the movie, you can see that when he left Rainbow, before entering Black Sabbath, before joining Black Sabbath, that was a very hard period of time for both of you. Can you
Yes.
tell us more about it?
Well, we had been living in a big house paid for by the band and everything. And when we left, he didn't have a manager. We didn't have anything. And I said we should go back to Los Angeles. So we decided that. We packed our few belongings up in our animals and we drove back to my grandmother at the time, thank goodness, had left me a little bit of money. So we had a little car we bought and we drove back to Los Angeles. And Ronnie was working in about 3 different bands, trying to get something together with Skunk Baxter, with all different people, some people from Elf before, and trying to get something together. And working very hard, never giving up, never thinking about anything but making the music. And then happened to be at the Rainbow one night and met Tony Iommi, who also was a bit fed up with what was going on with Ozzy, and he wanted to start a new band. And he was talking with Ronnie, and they were talking about forming a band together. And then Ronnie went up to the house, and Tony had this tune that he had been working on. He said, what do you think about this? And together they wrote Children of the Sea. And then it decided, like Geezer came in and Bill Ward, and they decided, well, why don't we just continue on as Black Sabbath? And that was a great feat in itself, because how were the fans going to accept it, you know, which a lot of them didn't right in the beginning, but, you know, Ronnie won them over.
Mm-hmm. And mentioning Rainbow Bar and Grill, I think it was a very significant place for Ronnie James Dio, because he not only met Tony Iommi there, but he met you as well.
Yes, that's right. Yes, I'd come over from England, and I had waiting for my green card, and I needed a job, and my friend was working there, and she said, you should come. I said, well, I never waitressed before, but let's try it out. So I did, and I was a good waitress. I was a very good waitress. And Richie Blackmore came in with his wife at the time, Babsy, and I knew them from England, and so I was like, oh, okay. So and they introduced me to Ronnie, and I said, he's too short for me. And we went to the party. He had a party, Richie, at his house in Hollywood Hills. I went up there, and I was talking to Ronnie in the evening, and then a bunch of us all went out for breakfast, and we was talking till the sun came up, and just fell in love with his brain, I think. And then they had made the album Richie Blackmore's Rainbow, but they had not toured yet. And so I was seeing Ronnie for about 2 weeks, and then he went on the road with the band. And then he called me and said, why don't you quit your job and come with me? I said, no, I can't quit my job, but I'll come for 2 weeks. And I went for the rest of my life.
Great. Okay, he might have been too short for you, but is it true that Ronnie wanted to become a basketball player?
Oh yeah, he did. When he was a kid, yeah, he loved basketball. He loved baseball. Was actually his real main love, was baseball. He loved baseball, and he loved football. He loved all sports, actually. In fact, he used to write his songs listening to sports. He would sit on the couch with his guitar and watch sports and write songs.
Yeah. Another thing that many people do not know was that the fact that Ronnie was playing the trumpet, and how playing trumpet when he was young helped him develop his charisma in singing, and that he wasn't even supposed to be the singer of the band. There's many trivia, many things, many details that I think that every single Ronnie James Dio fan should know.
Yeah, he played trumpet. His dad insisted on him playing an instrument when he was 5 years old. and he just picked trumpet off of the radio and just wanted to get back to playing his baseball. And his dad said, no, now we're going to practice 4 hours every single day. And Ronnie hated it, absolutely hated it, to the point where he got really good. And then he started to enjoy it. And so he played trumpet with, people like Gene Pitney and Bobby Darin when he was like 15 years old. People don't know that either. And then that's what he developed, the singing from the diaphragm instead of from the throat. And then he decided that trumpet, you can't pull girls with trumpet, so I better switch to bass. So he taught himself bass, so he could go out and be a rock star.
What was difficult for you in being one of the very few women managers in that business? It was late 70s, early 80s, I think. I'm thinking that you, Sharon, and perhaps Geezer Butler's wife, perhaps, I think she was later on.
Later.
Became.
Yeah, later.
How did people see you in the business?
Oh, they didn't want to see us in the business. Neither one of us. It was like, this is men's work. You don't know what you're doing. You shouldn't be doing this. I listened to what the men said and smiled sweetly and said, thank you very much, and did it my own way. Sharon, on the other side, took the way of just go F yourself and did it her way, but we both did it our own way, and we both were successful. And now there's many women managers, and they're very, very good. I think women can multitask, which men seem to find hard to do, and little things that come up with a musician that's like maybe very trivial and very petty, but it's important to them. And I think women take the time to make sure that those little issues are dealt with, whereas men is like, oh, just get on with it.
Yeah, I see it from myself that sometimes I ask my wife's opinion on things that I actually know better, but women seem to have a different perspective on things.
Absolutely.
Which is always useful to use a different perspective and think out of the box. How was it to be divorced with Ronnie and still be his manager? Did you
I never was divorced. I don't know where that came from, but anybody who could find any divorce papers, I give them $1 million. We were never ever divorced. We may have split up sometimes and gone back together, as very hard to be, to marry to a musician and to manage them. And we parted ways and we came back together. We were always together.
Okay,
and,
so let's
ever was divorced or even talked about divorce. And Ronnie would be very upset if somebody said that. I don't know where that rumor came. I think Vivian Campbell said it for some reason. Why? I have no idea.
Vivian Campbell told me that a few months ago, to tell you the truth, but it isn't the first time, and I think it's not the only person that has said it.
Yeah, no,
you need to clarify that. Yeah.
Yeah, he also said he got $100 a week, which is also another lie. He's been making money for 40 years from all the publishing and the songwriting from Ronnie's songs. He didn't say anything about that. It's just craziness, and I get really angry when people say that. I never ever divorced from Ronnie, ever, never ever think about getting divorced from Ronnie, and he would turn over in his grave if he thought somebody said that.
So there were some times that you had split, that you were kind of away from each other, but you were still managing him. Did you feel any contradiction on that? Did it have any impact on the way that you worked for him?
No, because business is business and our personal life was our personal life. We got on really well with it because I never interfered with Ronnie's music. He never interfered with my business. And, we had one goal. That was it. We had one goal, and it was for Ronnie, success in his business and his music.
Yeah, and from the time that this business plan worked, it makes no sense to change it.
Exactly.
You can't change a winning team.
No, not at all.
Yeah, of course. A very special part of the movie is definitely that hear and aid part. It's always fun to see this gathering of musicians again. We watch it. We watch the clip on YouTube. But do you believe that it was possible to have been done by another person, by a person other than Ronnie James Dio? Do you feel that there was an artist that would gather another artist that would gather all these musicians in a room together and do what had to be done for a charity reason.
I think Ronnie was very good at it, but I think there's other people that could do something if they put their mind to it. I mean, Quincy Jones put the We Are the World together, you know. It's just a matter of people having respect for you and being able to put something together. When people have respect for you, you can ask them to do something and they willingly want to do it. I mean, a lot of musicians had a lot of respect for Ronnie. They knew Ronnie's background, that he had been, you know, working as a musician before some of them were even born. And a lot and they have respect for Ronnie and what he did, and his work, the way he worked he was a perfectionist. Ronnie he would argue a lot of times with his band members because he was a perfectionist. He knew exactly how he wanted something done. And actually, if you talk to Doug Aldrich, he'll say that Ronnie was very hard on him while he was in the studio and everything. But later on, he realized that it was to make him a better player. And he says he made me a better player because of what I listened to. And a lot of musicians will say that work with Ronnie, because he was like in the hearing aid, he went over and over and over with somebody, making sure that the best of them came out. He could have just said, okay, that's fine. But no, he wanted the best of every musician. He wanted the best that they could possibly do. And he brought it out in them.
Yeah, and that extract with his voice singing alone with no instruments is absolutely hair-raising. I think that every singer should quit after watching that. What is your fondest memory of that gathering of musicians there in here? And were you there when this thing happened?
Oh, of course, yes.
Which is your fondest memory of that?
I think when everybody was coming in and nobody had an ego, everybody was happy to do it. And it was a very happy time when all these, imagine everybody who was anybody at that time in the metal was there, giving their time and their talent and for a good cause. And it was a very, very happy. There was no egos. Everybody was having a fun time, and it was just a very magical time. I think that was magical. Yeah. A lot of people there passed away, unfortunately. Kevin DuBrow, Jimmy Bain, Frankie Pinelli, you know, Ronnie, and it was a very happy time to see all that happen. And it was also like, screw you, all you other people, you know, who wanted to be involved in We Are the World, but we're nasty, dirty metal people. Will show you we can do it too.
Yeah, of course. That was an answer to all these people saying that heavy metal is just evil and that they cannot do charity. But it raised, I think, about $1 million.
Oh, yes, over $1 million, yes. And we actually bought equipment, because a lot of the money that went with We Are the World, the government ate up, and the actual people that were supposed to get it didn't get a lot of it. And what we did was we bought equipment so that they could work with the equipment and make money for themselves and make food.
Mm-hmm. We all know that Richie Blackmore wanted Rainbow to become more commercial, so yes. And not sing about dragons and all the things that Ronnie used to write. However, do you feel that Ronnie's personality and singing ability and all his persona was kind of overshadowed by Richie Blackmore, and he just needed to get out of this thing and do his own thing, or go somewhere else for his talent to be shown better?
I think at the time, she was famous for getting rid of. Now, the first Richie Blackmore's album was actually all of Elf except for the guitar player. Yeah. And then one by one he replaced the musicians. I think that the record label was in Richie's ear, and Richie suddenly wanted to be more successful. He wanted to be more commercial, And it was a time, Ronnie didn't want to do that. And that's what I said. He stuck to his guns. He stuck to what he believed in and what he wanted to do. We had no idea where we were going to go or what was going to happen, but he didn't care. He was not going to do something that he didn't want to do. That was Ronnie. You could not make him do something he didn't want to do.
Were there any songs that Ronnie sang that he felt that they didn't have a potential and he finally proved wrong?
I'm not quite understanding.
I have heard, I think, that there was either Rainbow in the Dark or...
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. I thought you were talking about when Ronnie was in Rainbow. Oh, Rainbow in the Dark. Yes, Ronnie thought it was a little bit too poppy. And he wasn't really happy with it, with the keyboard in it. But he admitted he was wrong later on. That was one of the songs that got the most airplay. And Ronnie got to like it afterwards. But at the time, he thought it was a little bit poppy, like Mystery. He wasn't happy with Mystery. He wasn't happy, again, that was another thing with Vivian Campbell. He wasn't happy with the way the band was, again, trying to make him more commercial and make more poppy songs. And Ronnie was not happy with that at all.
So the band was trying to make Dio band, the other members of the band were trying to make the band more commercial.
Yes, like with the song Mystery, and and it was turning point for Ronnie. It was just said, and he just felt that Vivian was not into the music that Ronnie wanted to create anymore. And then Vivian was also bitching about the money and so on. And it was a time that Ronnie was now in control. He didn't need someone telling him what he should be doing. It was his band, and finally he could say, I don't want to do this anymore. It's time for a change. It's time for, a new guitar player.
Yeah, and Vivian told me again a few months ago that he didn't like the fact that he thought that you as a manager was working only for Ronnie and not for the Dio band. But that's his point of view.
Well, they were all paid. They were all hired musicians, and they were all paid. And that was the way it was, because that was how it was Ronnie's band.
Yeah.
Ronnie had paid his dues in Black Sabbath and in Rainbow and in Elf for years and years and years. And there's a young kid comes off from the boat from Ireland and suddenly decides he wants to be the same as Ronnie. I'm sorry, that doesn't happen.
I think what he told me a few months ago was that it was very hard for him to play with his idol, because Ronnie James Dio was his idol, and he tried very much to get in the position that he was a bandmate. He was in the band of his idol, and I think this thing created some turbulence within him. He perhaps didn't know how to cope with that because he was too young.
Yeah, exactly. And he went on and tried to do the same thing with Whitesnake, and didn't work out with Whitesnake either. So then he got his place in Def Leppard, and that's where he's happy, being second guitar in Def Leppard.
Yeah, okay. That's fine enough. If someone is fine with that, nobody has a problem.
No.
So, can you tell me, we have a very popular TV series called Stranger Things nowadays in Netflix.
Yes.
Have you seen that?
Yes, of course.
How did it feel that you saw one of the main characters of the movie having this huge black panel with Dio? I think it was the last in line.
Yes.
How did it feel? Do you feel that Ronnie has his legacy? I mean, it lives on.
Yes, with the younger kids, and I'm very, very happy about that. They came to me about before the pandemic, and asked me for the permission to use the Dio logo, because you can't just use it without permission. And say, yes, I can license it to you. And then they said that we were going to try and find some vintage stuff of Ronnie's. I said, oh, I have plenty of it. I send you a bunch. So I sent them, and that was
Fantastic.
a t-shirt, original t-shirt from the original Last in Line tour. And I sent them that, and I didn't hear any more for like 2.5 years. I think, oh, maybe they didn't want to use it, whatever. But because of the pandemic, the show had finished for 2.5 years, closed. And then suddenly I see in Stranger Things a new episodes, and they took the t-shirt and cut out the back, the front of the t-shirt, and put it on the back of Eddie, the main character's vest. And I was so excited. That was one of the times when I wanted to tell Ronnie, look, Ronnie, look. And I did tell him, but I don't know if he heard me or not, but I did tell him. And it was so excited to see now a lot of young kids, like my daughter, before she didn't want to wear Dio stuff. Now she wanted to wear Dio stuff. So
that's it was great. I mean, like deja vu.
Yeah.
Which of his guest appearances do you think that he enjoyed most? A few hours ago, I was speaking with Jeff Tate, for example, and he took part in Queensryche Operation Mindcrime 2.
Yes.
Was it perhaps Queensryche? Was it Jack Black and Tenacious D? What do you think? With this video, with this great video from the Peak of Destiny, resurrecting from...
That was a fun time. The fun time with Mindcrime was fun. I think the best times Ronnie had was playing with Black Sabbath. That was what he loved. And I am so happy that he got to go back full circle with the Sabs before he passed away, because they are all such amazing musicians. You've got Tony Iommi, the riff player, the riff master of all, and such an amazing guitar player. You've got Geezer Butler, probably the bass player in the world, and Vinny Appice, the drum monster, and all them four together with such amazing musician talent. He was in his element. He loved playing with them.
What about the hologram? Will we ever see anything of it, or was it too expensive to be continued?
There was a lot of reasons. We tried it. It was very expensive. Yes, it was very expensive. It cost us a lot of money. But after seeing it for a while, it wasn't really Ronnie. And I just thought, I don't want to do that again. Half of people liked it, half of people didn't like it. Whatever it was put out because we wanted it for the fans who thought that maybe the fans who had never seen Ronnie before or wanted to see Ronnie back up on stage. And it was done with love, but it wasn't right. If the band goes out again, which they may in next year, I'm not sure. I'm going to use probably video of Ronnie along with the band playing. But I don't want to do the hologram again. No, it's something that we tried and we thought technology and whatever, but it changes every day. And plus the fact you can't take it hardly anywhere because, unless you're a huge star like Michael Jackson or something, you can't go into huge arenas, and it's too big to go into a lot of places. You couldn't take it in clubs, so you have to find theaters that have a high enough stage to be able to put that hologram, all of the equipment in. So that was another reason. It was just wasn't right anymore. We tried it and it was fine, but that was it.
Yeah, we had spoken about that in detail. Can you tell me, how did Ronnie feel when he realized that they could not use the name Black Sabbath when he rejoined the band and he was forced to use Heaven and Hell?
I think the band discussed it between themselves, and it was fine with everybody, actually. Because everybody knew it was Black Sabbath anyway.
Anyway, yeah. And I feel blessed that Heaven and Hell came twice in Greece, and we had the chance to meet Ronnie. The 16th of May, at least to my family, is a horrible date because my father of my wife died on the 16th of May, which is which we felt like our fathers died on the 16th of May. Is it's a
to grieve together. Yes,
It's a date of grief. It's a date of grief because Ronnie was a father to everyone who listened heavy metal, and it's about our age. I'm around 50, and he was like our father.
Yes,
that's how we feel about him. And before the end, can you tell us, because the pandemic hindered you from doing things like Bowl from Ronnie, Ride for Ronnie, but the Ronnie James Dio Stand Up and Shout Cancer Fund is always going on. Can you tell us, because we have a few time left on our Zoom link?
We haven't been able to do anything for 2.5 years with the pandemic, but I am very happy to announce that we will be doing the bowl for Ronnie, the celebrity bowl on the 17th of November, and Tom Morello has already got his own bowling ball, and Geezer Butler's getting the bowl.
I know that he has his own bowling ball, and I think he has his shoes.
Yes.
Yeah, he's fully equipped.
So everybody's getting ready and geared up for it, for the 17th of November at Pins, and we're very, very happy to know that it's coming back. It's a fantastic event, and we raise a lot of money for our charity, which every penny goes into research and education. I have a board of 14 members, which are fantastic, all old friends of Ronnie's and a lot of people in the business, and we have no administration costs whatsoever. We have no payroll, we have no anything. Everybody's a volunteer, and every penny goes to research. And we've done a lot of research, and for good, like for instance, Vanderbilt Hospital in Nashville, they had no money set aside for gastric cancers and pancreatic cancers, and we gave them $100,000. Someone else gave them $500,000, and because of that, the government gave them an $11 million grant. So we're kind of giving seed money, because breast cancer come a long, long way from all the amount of research that's gone into it. But stomach cancers, which a lot of men's cancers, pancreatic cancers, stomach cancers, there's not so much research going into that, and we need to get rid of this horrible disease, really do.
So Wendy, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for continuing Ronnie's legacy. It's very important for everyone who is into music, and you definitely honor his name, and you do things that not many people do about their beloved persons.
Well, I have to keep his music and his memory alive. So everything I can do to keep it while I'm alive, that's my goal in life, is to keep his music and his memory alive.
Thank you very much for everything before.